everybody, and very welcome to the 11th episode of our broadcast, the Brain Function series from the Togetherness Media, Los Angeles. This is Mohammad Nami, medical cognitive neuroscientist, and again, privileged to be sharing with you some highlights regarding the fact how the brain works and, you know, literally something about the brain-related disorders. And this time, in the 11th episode of our discussions, and a broadcast, we've decided to touch on autism spectrum disorder, which probably we've heard about it as it's a prominent condition as a neurodevelopmental delay, a neurodevelopmental behavioral intellectual disorder among many families around the world. And that's why we've chosen together to discuss about this because that is kind of not afflicting the people themselves, but it is also negatively hampering the quality of life of the people, the families that they are involved with having a child with autism. We kind of appreciate that ASD, or autism spectrum disorder, as it's applied by its name, fits within somewhere in a continuum. So some of the cases with autism, they fall under high functioning autism, whereas some others, they have low function autism with devastating, debilitating symptoms. And some of the cases with autism, they fall somewhere in between. So we got to appreciate the fact that ASD is generally a complex developmental condition that involves persistent challenges in social interaction, like speech and nonverbal communication, and restricted repetitive behaviors. And we kind of know that this condition is 3 to 4 times more prevalent in boys than in girls. And generally, when we have the girls who are diagnosed with autism, the symptoms that they have is more subtle, and they do not exhibit some robust symptoms of autism. That's why it's pretty much more difficult to find out symptoms in girls rather than the boys with autism spectrum disorder, and it's less prevalent in girls, as was stated. Generally, these kids, they have problems in their social and communication interactions, and they like difficulty in normal back and forth discussions. They have problem in sharing the interest or their emotions, and they have challenges in understanding and responding to social cues such as poor eye contact and facial expression. And they do have deficits in development and maintaining or understanding relationships, and that's why probably that's the reason that I find it very difficult to make friends or sustain a relationship. And they are kind of more stuck in their brain. So they do sometimes have very spectacular, unique capacities in their cognitive performance. For instance, some of them, they do, beautifully, they're performing in calculation or in drawing or in their memory, for instance. But generally speaking, they have the key and the most problematic issue of social interaction, or having a good grasp on social cognition, if you like. And they do have restricted and repetitive patterns of behavior and interests or activities, which makes them unique. And some dimensions, they demonstrate some specific behaviors, such as flapping their hands or toe walking, or they're playing with the toys in a very uncommon and unique way. For instance, they're like lining up the cars, or they're flipping the objects or toys in a way which is not expected. They're speaking in a unique way, and also they have the significant need for like a predictable routine and well-structured setup. So when we have a minuscule change, they do show some intolerance to that specific change which has been in place. And they also exhibit the intense interest in activities that are uncommon for similarly aged children. Also, they have experienced they might have experienced some problems in the sensory aspects of the world in an unusual or extreme way, such as having different sense of smell, or they are very susceptible, they are very irritable to lighting and also the loud noise, etc. So they find it very difficult. In some contexts, for example, they have issues with their tactician, and some minuscule tactician, it arouses, fascination in them, or it is really bothering them. They're reacting in a very overwhelming way. We need to know about this stuff. And in terms of the diagnosis and the risk factors that these cases with autism are normally confronted with, we know that children who are not responding to their names overall by the age of 12 months, they might be suspected for ASD in some instances. And those who are not pointing at objects to show interest by the age of 14 months, and children who are not playing, where they pretend not to be playing games by the age of 18 months, and they avoid eye contacts, and they find it difficult to, get along with the other people. They prefer to be alone rather than getting along with the others. And they get upset and irritated very easily with minor changes, or they have flapping, stereotypic behaviors like flapping their hands or rocking body movements or spinning in circles. So these are the symptoms that they kind of relate to some of the suspicious symptomatology of autism spectrum disorders, plus the unusual way that they process the things like smell and taste, and the way that they feel, and the way that the surrounding look to them. So this is something which is kind of complex in many instances. When we're putting together whole this symptomatology to come into the diagnosis, it's not an easy task. Many cases. Frankly speaking, scientists so far have less understanding than expected. What is the main and the most justifiable reason for autism symptoms and the pathophysiological aspects of autism? It might be the genes that the children are born with. It might be the environment. It might be the lack of, the interaction between the brain and the environment, and many other things. But something is for certain, that in our books, we do not have any compelling evidence that abnormal or like poor parenting or family function is related to autism. We know that environmental factors are important, but poor parenting is not really closely related to that. Also, we know that vaccination does not cause autism. And just to wrap up the stuff here, we do have, some simple tips for parents who are afflicted of having a child with autism. The first and foremost is that we recommend that if we have a child with autism, it's important to just raise our awareness about the autism spectrum disorder. We need to read about it. We need to, attend the philanthropic and, social societies that they are kind of involved in awareness campaigns for autism. We need to be part of the game, and we need to provide consistent structure and routine to those cases with autism, not to get them irritated, not to put them in a context of being, becoming restless or irritable. So we got to understand their needs, and we also need to connect with the other parents of children with autism. And if there is a need, we should be seeking the professional advice from those experts who can help us in many different dimensions in terms of diagnosis, imaging, and also state-of-the-art diagnostic measures that we're now talking about in modern neuroscience, as well as the treatments, either pharmacological or non-pharmacological approaches in the treatment of autism. We got to have open eyes to those kind of things and not to miss the opportunity. Also using the neurotechnology and also some other behavioral and cognitive approaches to remediate the symptoms of autism. This is really important. And so we need to seek consultation. We need to seek advice from the professional people in that realm. And also, this is also important that if we are struggling of having a child with autism, we should take time for ourselves and for our concerns and our rest, and also to have some blocks of time to sort of like de-stress, you know what I mean? And also the other family members, they need to have some block of times to stay better in terms of their cognitive well-being and also the mental health. So by this, would be able to provide these kids with better platforms to gain a better quality of life and live the life that they would deserve. So we need to go hand in hand. It's a multidisciplinary approach. Families are definitely a part of the game. We need to have the coalition to raise the awareness for autism worldwide. And by that, we would only be able to help these kids to find their ways. We just take them to the society, and the society is going to help them live a better life. And thank you for listening to this episode. And I hope for the next time we'll be also able to touch on other aspects of brain functions and some other brain-related disorders if there is a chance for it. Thank you so much, and stay well and be productive. And we'll catch up later. Thank you.